Ladies and gentlemen, this is Joe's Classic Video Games back with another cool pinball repair video for you today. This is Chicago Coins Gunsmoke. We've done about 3 of these pinball machines before, this exact same title. We had a gentleman bring us this and wants us to get it working back the way it originally was, he said. So we've done a couple videos on it so far. The thing wasn't working at all because there was a replay unit missing out of the back that they had just been cut out. So you couldn't start a game, but it was stuck in the middle of a game. So we cleaned a bunch of stuff and we replaced that unit. We were actually able to find one on eBay and put it right back in where it goes. Rewired it and all of that. So on this video though, we need to get this thing hopping along a little better than it is. So I think what I'll do is we'll play a game again just to see where we're at, and then we'll see what's next. All right, let's see if it'll start a game like it did yesterday. Oh, I keep forgetting. The button on the front of it is the Gunsmoke button. The actual start button, they have removed. This game, if you didn't watch the previous videos, it's all hacked up. We don't know why they did some of the stuff that they did, but here we are. We're back to 0. Oh, that's right. It wasn't kicking the ball out, although the ball's not in there. So we need to figure that out. So it just cycles. So why is it not kicking the ball out? We need to figure that out first. Okay, so I'm going to show you something interesting. I see this about 10% of the time when this is happening. Now, keep in mind this thing's been sitting a long time, right? So we're looking at the coil that ejects the ball from the out hole out into the lane. This is the switch that the ball lands on. So if I pull this switch down, it's as if the ball is in there. Now watch that coil very carefully. See it moving? So it's actually trying to kick the ball out, and it can't. So there must be some kind of physical reason that it can't. So we'll take this apron off and get a better look at it. Now look at this crap. I've never seen one do this. Basically, it's out of place. There we go. So normally what's going on is this pivot is seized up and the thing can't move. But this one, it had moved too far, which begs the question, is it going to do it again? Oh, it was a little seized up. Okay, so that being out of place, look how it won't really go out of place unless you force it. Somebody was probably in there messing with it. See, if I hold the plunger all the way in, I can't even get it to do that if I'm manipulating it. So it could just be somebody was working on it and put it back together wrong. So it's a little stubborn. I'm going to oil this pivot just to make sure that you've got metal on metal, you know. So just to make sure that everything's cool, we're going to oil that. You don't usually have to go through and replace all the coil sleeves. You can if you want, but usually it's not necessary. If it's all dirty, you can clean it up if you want. And you can replace the coil sleeves if you want, but you usually don't have to. So let me clean it up a little bit and oil that. It seems to move pretty good by hand now. Yeah. Looks perfect. Alright, so we got that. Next thing, see how the lights are flickering? It's only the playfield ones. You might not be able to tell too much. I don't get demonetized for playing the monkeys. On the back box, they're not doing it. So there's something with the playfield lights making all of them flicker. So that's going to be whatever the power source is for all of the light bulbs. So I'm going to prop up the playfield, and then I'm going to wiggle the connectors on the Jones plugs. I already cleaned all of those, but it could be that we've got a bad connection there. Okay, so wiggling the Jones plugs did seem to make the lights come in stronger and weaker. So I've removed those, cleaned it, put it back, and it looks like they're on nice and solid now. That could also be the fuse, a connection on the fuse. The playfield lights have a different connection to power than the back box lights. It could also be a connection on the hold relay. If you look at the hold relay, it has a switch that turns on and off the lights. But I think it's, I think actually the hold relay does all the lights at the same time. So you can see it on the schematics. So one of the other things that I'm concerned with is the flipper, the right flipper is dragging the playfield. So I've removed the flipper bat. And I was thinking that it was going to be the bushing. We actually ordered bushings for it. But a lot of times, I got to be honest with you, sometimes I see a bushing that's damaged or it's cracked or something, but typically they're fine. This one's fine. And if you look, it's sticking up above the playfield just fine. But if you look at the actual flipper bat, you can see what the problem is. See how it's not square? I don't know how well you can tell that, but this is not a 90-degree angle. It's hard to see. I wish I had some kind of little square I could put on it to show you. Let me see if I can get a piece of paper that might illustrate it. Alright, this is the best I can do. If you look, the top, the actual shoe, the plastic part is bent. It's just not mounted on there square. So if you look, even the end of it, like this part, from about here to about here, is rubbed a little flat. Like this should actually come down to about here. And it's kind of flattened off here where it's been rubbing the freaking playfield. So it's just bent a little bit. So if we were to bend it back the other way, that would fix the problem. I mean, you can see I've got it pretty much straight up, but you see how the rubber ring isn't square. It's not perpendicular. I don't know how to explain it. You get my point. So we need to fix that. That's the actual problem. It's not the actual bushing in the playfield. So you can see it's just a little bit, but that's enough to make it drag on the end of the playfield. The end of it to drag on the playfield. So I'm going to bend it back straighter, and then we'll remount the foot on it and see if that helps any. Okay, so I think that's correct. I think that will be much better. So I'm going to leave it off though so that we can touch up the paint on the playfield when we do that. So you've seen me work on these tons of times. I just figured I'd show the stuff that's unique to this one. It's the same as always, lots of switches that you clean. And I replaced all the light bulbs, of course. Okay, but let me show you a couple things that are a little different on this one. When the ball rolls on the pop bumper, you have the middle one, which is this one. See how it says center bumper relay? And so when the ball rolls up on it, that little switch gets connected there that you're seeing move, because that little skirt sticks between the playfield and pushes the switch together. So when that happens, that switch turns on that relay. That relay pulls in, which makes points work, all kinds of different stuff happen. Okay? That relay stays locked in until this switch opens. So how does that switch open? Well, when the pop bumper relay pulls in, that little half moon there opens it. Once that opens, it kills that relay. So that's very typical. That's just how they do it on EM pinball machines. What's different about this one is you've got your left and your right pop bumpers here, and they're on the same relay, which is fairly common. So the same thing happens. The ball rolls up on the skirt, and it closes that switch. So that switch turns on this relay. I don't know if I can prove it. Yeah. See the yellow and black wire? That's yellow and black now. It might have been white and black originally. Goes to right there, which connects to the relay. Right? But the interesting thing is, on this side, the switch on this one is the same wire. So if this one were to close, that would also turn on that relay. Okay? So the left and the right are tied together. Well, what that means is when this pulls in, it fires both of the pop bumper coils. Again, that's very common. What's not so common is there's only one switch on this one. They saved a switch. So instead of having a switch here to turn the relay off, they just put one on this one. Because if they both fire at the same time, you really only need one switch to turn that relay off. As a matter of fact, if you had two, no, yeah, I think on Williams and some of the other ones, they always had two. They had one on each pop bumper. So on this one, though, they only have one. So just minor things, right? Nothing major. So I also got the bonus reel cleaned up. Notice this black area here. That's because they're running a lot of heat through this wire. So it's starting to char. Eventually, a lot of these old boards are going to be baked and they're going to need to be redone. So there's that. And then the other interesting thing was the flippers. This one on the right is original to the game. See how it only has two lugs? Okay, so that's your strong coil, you know, that flips the ball. And then if you know modern coils, they have a second winding on them. Well, the way they did it on these was it's actually a second coil. Right flipper resistance coil. So there's two coils, but they're not parallel wound. They're like they're two separate coils from each other. And the purpose of that is whenever you this coil is shorted out by this switch here. So whenever you hit the button, it just uses this coil because this one is a dead short because it's wired across the switch. But whenever the flipper pulls in, it opens this one, which adds the resistance of this coil to the resistance of this coil, which means it's weaker, but it means you can hold the flipper up without burning anything up. It can stay energized the whole time. So what's interesting is that's the original setup. Here's the original setup over here, but they've replaced the flipper coil with a more modern one that has 3 lugs, and they took the wires off of that extra coil and just put it on here because this one has both of the coils inside of it, like a more modern flipper. So that's pretty cool. So one's the old way and one's the new way, but if they're working, that's going to be our way. We'll leave it like that. And then I took the extra wires that were up here and just left them up there. Again, I don't know what they went to, but it kind of looks like they had some kind of kicker in the out lane. I don't understand how in the world it could have possibly worked on an EM, but whatever. And here is the up post, the center post. This was the first game that had this. And you can see just how simple it is. It gets power, it pulls in and pushes the post up. This post is just completely, it moves by gravity whenever this thing goes back down. There is an adjustment here. They call it the ball saver. And basically it turns on at a certain point that you get. And they have it hardwired into the hardest way to get it, which would be 300. That's just how they wired it up. Somebody has modded this and done some things like that. So other than that, there's nothing super interesting under the playfield. So we got to put the flipper thing back together, but not until we clean and paint the top of the playfield. So this is interesting when you take the flipper off. Look how the wood under the flipper is much lighter. So that would have been the original color of the playfield. You can imagine how beautiful it would have been brand new. And of course you can see the same thing under where the apron was. So this shows you that really what causes that is the lights, you know, like the lighting affects the lacquer that they have painted over the playfield. This one here, you can actually see it kind of good if I let the light hit it, because it's actually in decent shape. So this is a Chicago coin, late 60s. This is the original finish, or I believe it to be the original finish. That's just water. Oh, that's the oil. I got some oil on there earlier when I was messing with the ball thing. I mean, I see brush strokes, or I think I see brush strokes. Do we see brush strokes? No, I think it's just the graining of the wood, of the plywood. But you can see that it's actually held up pretty well over the years. But the light has reacted with the lacquer, or whatever that is, the varnish, and darkened it. But where the light was not able to get to it, like under the apron or even under the flipper, it's still nice and light. So that would have been the original color of all of the wood. But the lacquer is on, or I'm calling it lacquer, it may be something else, but the lacquer is on everything. So all of the art is like that too. So if you take a post off or something, you see the fresh original color underneath the post where the light was never able to get to it. And the lacquer never yellowed or browned or whatever you want to call that. So all of this would look really nice if it was still original, like with that light color. It just looks older because it's darkened up, but if it was all light, you know, it would look new and fresh.
Alright guys, I'm going to start taking this playfield apart. I'm going to clean it, and I'm going to put all new rings back on it. Of course, clean all the switches and put new light bulbs. It's in pretty good shape already, it's just kind of dirty. Somebody's putting new rings on it in the past. I don't know how long ago that was. But usually when we work on these machines, we go ahead and clean the playfield, put on new rings and light bulbs, and clean and adjust all the switches on the top side of the playfield. Then I'm sure Ronnie will go underneath and adjust all those if he hasn't already. Alright, here we go. Alright, so I got pretty much everything off there. You can tell how dirty it is by where the posts were. That's what it's supposed to look like. I probably won't get it that clean again, but I'll get it a lot cleaner than it is now. And this is kind of how I lay everything out. I just pretty much lay it where it goes, or a general area where it goes. I've had people ask me that before. And I leave the rings with it just so I know what size they are. After I put the new ring on, obviously I'll throw all those away. Alright, so now I'm going to clean it up with a magic eraser and Windex. Yeah, that's right. Regular Windex. That's what it looks like after cleaning. The yellow is a lot brighter than it was. So now we're going to touch up that little spot there. It's got a little wear up there on the yellow, but I don't know if Ronnie's going to mess with that or not. Yellow is pretty hard to touch up usually. And once we do that, we're going to clear coat that one little spot, and then we're going to put a big wax coat on it. And wax cleans too, so it'll get a little bit cleaner after the wax. And then we'll start putting it all back together.
Okay, folks, so I inked the line in, and then I took some pink and I mixed it with some green. Basically, all of these colors, to your eye, they look like yellow, orange, and blue, light blue, and pink, but they all have like a green tint to them. When Joe cleaned it off, look how much lighter he got the wood that we were talking about on the previous video. Did you mention that to him about how dark the wood looked?
I was telling him how the yellow cleaned up pretty good.
Yeah. So he got a lot of it off, but it's just that varnish has yellowed over the years. Or greened. So I've noticed on these paints that if you add green to whatever color you're trying to match, it makes it match a lot better. So I repainted the pink by taking a pink that I had and just adding a little bit of green to it, just to green it up a little bit. So you can see it's a little off, but it looks a lot better than it did, in my opinion. The black I was able to just draw right back in with a black ink pen. Now the ink that we use is latex, water-based ink. And the reason for that is because whenever you clear it, it's not going to bleed. So if you take like a Sharpie and do this, the blacks, when you clear it, there is like I don't even know what, it's some kind of catalyst in the Sharpie that reacts with the catalyst in the clear and will make the crap run. So it's oil-based and you're putting oil-based over and it gives you all kinds of problems. If you paint it with water-based, when you put the clear over it, the catalyst in the clear doesn't screw around with the water-based paint. It just sits right where it was if you've let it dry. So these are the little pens we use. Water-based. That's what you want. Now, if you want any of these, go on our website. Go to lionsarcade.com. There is a page on there at the top, says parts page. We've got a bunch of stuff linked on there that are on Amazon. We've got a link to this. We've got a link to a bunch of other stuff. If you buy any of that stuff, it gives us a little tip. So we appreciate everybody that's been doing that. It's not ours, though. It's just a link to other people selling it. And then I did up here, too. This one is hid a little bit because it's farther up the playfield. And it's got it really needs filler material in it to build up the rim of the eject hole there, and then sanded flat, and then repainted and all that. But, you know, the gentleman really didn't even care if we painted any of this, so we're just trying to help him out a little bit. So I just drew the black line back in so that it looks a little more complete. And then the purple, I had a paint called Mulberry. That was like, it's an exact match. So I just painted the little line of it that was missing back in, and that's what we got. It's not perfect, but it looks more presentable, I think, than it did. The other parts, like Joe mentioned, I'm not going to repaint. I'm just going to leave it a little bit of wear because I think this is going to look really nice since it cleaned up so much. I'm glad the pink came back a little bit, but it's not like a really light pink. If you look, it's almost like a purple if you're good with colors, you know. So it's pink with a little green in it, and that's how I got the. We might be a little bit too purple with our touch-up, but it's close enough. I put a little bit down here, but it's a little easier to see that, so I didn't want to go crazy with it. There's also a little blue wear here that we're not going to worry about. We're going to wax it, wax it, wax it, and it will be protected and hold up just fine in home play. So I think we got those about right, and it's about time. Oh, I got to talk about the clear. Everybody keeps saying, how come you never show when you do the clear? Well, we got a lot of complaints whenever we've shown it before because people have this attitude on YouTube that you should do everything the perfect way. And if you don't do it the perfect way, you shouldn't even talk about it, you know. So here's how you do the perfect way. You take this playfield, take everything off of it, including all of the switches, all of these nails, everything. You take everything off, and then you take it and you use automotive grade paint to clear coat it. And there are companies that will even do that for you, that restore these things. And, you know, it costs a couple $1,000s if they'll even mess with a playfield this old that's this worn, right? We're not trying to do that. We're just doing a little minor touch-up, you know. So the way we do it, we just spray paint. We just use spray paint clear coat. And we just spray over the one area that we've painted. So I'll spray a little bit here, and I'll spray a little bit up there. But if I showed you that, then people would think, oh, I'll just clear up my playfield a little bit and just add a little more clear over here. If you spray that on a playfield that hasn't been cleaned, you saw how Joe went over it with the magic erasers. He's getting all the old wax off. this thing is down to wood and paint now. So we can clear over it. If you haven't cleaned yours to that level, whenever you spray that clear on there, it's going to all bubble up and about half ruin your playfield. So, you know, you can't really do it unless you're going through it step by step the way we're doing it, right? So I don't want there to be a video out there of me spraying clear coat on it for people to complain about, or for somebody to view and misinterpret and then spray it on theirs and screw it all up. So, but that's how we do it. We just use rattle can satin clear coat. There's a link to that on our website too if you want. So I'm just going to spray a little bit here to cover the paint that I did, and a little bit there to cover the paint that I did. We're going to wax the heck out of it after that dries, and then it'll be ready to go. So it's time for the good music, Joe.
Here we go.
Okay. So we've got it pretty much playing. There's some stuff we need to do still, though. We need to put the start button back on the door. Why they took that off, I will never know. The paint, the customer is going to take care of. They said they're going to stencil it back to new. I need to work on some of the light bulbs in the back glass. And whenever you play it, when some of the coils hit, all of the lights dim, like severely. So I'm going to see if I can make that better. I'm going to watch my old video of my old GUNSMOKE and see if that is just something common that all of these GUNSMOKEs did or not. I saw the gate act up a little bit where it didn't stay open. So we've got some little minor things, but it's pretty much up and playing. I need to work a few more things in the back box, even though they work, just for preventative maintenance. But I cleaned all of the Jones plugs and all that already. But like the score reels we need to clean and things like that. I always do that last. I may try to remove this paint, because the guy's saying he's going to buy a whole new glass because of that. He wants to see the credit thing. But if I can get that off, I might save the guy a couple $100. Might do that just as a present. So this is always a problem on these. This originally was a piece of plastic. And it's kind of cool looking, but they don't make it. Somebody needs to. That would be a really good thing to reproduce, because we have the artwork. So I just printed this out. But whenever you print it, the light doesn't shine it quite through it quite as good. It'll light up and say 1, 2, 3, ball and play. Of course, just the instruction card, it's easy to print out. The flipper is not dragging. I checked to make sure. I think our paint around there came out pretty good. It's not perfect, because you know it's there. But if you didn't know it's there, I don't know if people would even notice it. The paint up here, not quite as good as down there, but again, looks pretty good. I could have got it better if I filled in the hole and did Bondo work and stuff, but that's kind of tough around a kick-out hole. It's a kind of a big job, and we don't usually do that just because, you know, we're not great at it. Joey knocked off this little button while he was cleaning it, if you didn't see that. But it has just a little screw that goes, a little plastic piece that goes in the back to hold it back in. I just popped it right back on. So no big deal. But I think it looks pretty good. So in the next video, I think we'll be able to finish it up. I need to do the start button. I need to keep cleaning some stuff in the back box just for preventative maintenance. Need to make sure all of the light bulbs are working in the back box. We need to try to clean up that score window. And then we need to test play it a little bit. But that's about all that's left. So I hope you enjoyed it. Leave your comments down below. Let us know what you think. Make sure to give us a thumbs up for taking the trouble to film it for you. We didn't have to do that, folks. And make sure to check out my brother Donnie. If you don't know about him, my brother Donnie has his own channel here on YouTube. We have we fix arcade games, pinball machines, and jukeboxes. My brother Donnie works on old vehicles, old buildings. We have some old buildings that we're renovating. And I'm over there with him on that channel a lot. So go check that out. I will see you over there, but I'll see you back here in a couple days where we'll finish up this GUNSMOKE. But I think it's coming along great, so I'm very happy. Happy. See you on the next video.